Is circumcision a sign of manhood? Circumcision, or the removal of the foreskin from the male genitalia, was a command in God's law that required baby boys to be circumcised on the 8th day after birth. Leviticus 12 verse 3. Modern medical research confirms that a newborn's blood clotting ability reaches a normal level around 1 week after birth. Back in biblical times, there weren't advanced medical techniques, so waiting a week before performing circumcision was practical. In many countries today, circumcision is done for health reasons. In others, it's not common at all. However, for Jews and Muslims, circumcision isn't just about health. It has deep religious significance. In some cultures, circumcision is a rite of passage into manhood. Boys are sent to special schools or undergo ceremonies where they are circumcised and separated from their families for weeks while they heal. But does circumcision really define whether a boy has become a man? Let's look at the origins and meaning of circumcision. The origin of circumcision. Around 1919 BCE, a year before Isaac was born, God commanded Abraham to undergo circumcision. God told him, "Every male among you must be circumcised. This is the covenant you are to keep." Genesis 17 verse 10. This rule applied to every male in Abraham's household, whether family members or servants. Abraham, his 13-year-old son Ishmael, and all his male servants were circumcised together as a sign of their covenant with God. From then on, every male in Abraham's lineage, whether free or enslaved, had to be circumcised on the 8th day after birth. If anyone refused, they would be cut off from God's people. What does God think about circumcision? Historically, some cultures, like the Egyptians, practiced circumcision. However, Abraham was not born into such a culture. In fact, he lived most of his life without being circumcised. That didn't make him any less of a man. For example, when his nephew Lot was captured by an army of 4 kings, Abraham led a small group of men, fought them, and won. When God commanded Abraham to be circumcised, Abraham was already 99 years old. It wasn't a ritual marking his transition to manhood. Instead, God explained that circumcision was a sign of his covenant with Abraham. Genesis 17 verse 11. The real purpose was spiritual. It had nothing to do with proving masculinity. Later, Israel as a nation rejected Jesus, the true heir of Abraham. This meant their circumcision no longer had any meaning in God's eyes. In the 1st century, some Christians still insisted that circumcision was necessary, but the Apostle Paul strongly opposed this idea. He sent Titus to various congregations to correct such misunderstandings, stating, "There are many rebellious people, especially those who insist on circumcision. Their mouths must be stopped because they teach things they shouldn't, just for dishonest gain." Titus 1:5, 10-11. Paul's warning is still relevant today. If a Christian insists that parents must circumcise their sons for religious reasons, they are not in line with biblical truth. Parents should be free to make their own decision on this personal matter. The truth about circumcision schools. Some parents send their sons to so-called circumcision schools, but these are not just places for a simple medical procedure. Attending such a school often means spending weeks away from family, living with other boys, and being taught certain traditions. Many of these teachings conflict with the Bible's moral standards, which warn. Bad associations spoil good habits. 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33. Aside from spiritual concerns, circumcision schools have increasingly been linked to physical harm. A 2003 study published in the South African Medical Journal warned that the devastating consequences of circumcision continue to make headlines worldwide, with reports of deaths and severe injuries. Beyond physical damage, these schools can also cause psychological harm. Many of their practices and teachings are tied to ancestral worship and spiritual rituals. If a circumcision goes wrong, instead of acknowledging poor medical conditions, some believe the boy was cursed or that an ancestor was displeased. The Bible warns against such practices, saying, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Light has no fellowship with darkness." 2 Corinthians 6 verses 14 to 17. Based on this, Christian parents should think carefully before sending their sons to circumcision schools. What really makes a man? Does circumcision determine whether someone is a real man? Not at all. Today, circumcision is a common surgical procedure with both medical benefits and risk. It has been linked to a reduced risk of urinary tract infections and sexually transmitted diseases, such as HIV, because removing the foreskin minimizes bacterial buildup. It also makes genital hygiene easier, reducing the likelihood of infections. However, circumcision isn't without risk. It can lead to infections, bleeding, or poor healing. Some men even report reduced sensitivity after circumcision, which might affect their sexual experience. While some believe circumcision helps with premature ejaculation, there isn't strong scientific evidence to support this. Many other factors influence sexual performance, including psychological state, technique, and overall health. If you're concerned about sexual stamina or premature ejaculation, circumcision isn't the only solution. Improving sexual techniques, staying physically active, and consulting a doctor or sexual health expert are more effective ways to address these issues.